Outer Orange.
I was obviously playing Vanguard at the time, but
Yep.
I'm still do play Vanguard now. But
Whoa, you do?
whoa, crazy!
Did you just win like recently?
That doesn't sound right.
Hello and welcome. My name is Outer Orange, and today we have a wonderful guest with us today. Hi.
Hello, it's good to be here.
You are Megatrick, correct?
Yeah, that one. I guess so.
Yes, good start. So your name has been kind of popping up recently because you recently got first at actually literally the literal champion for premium for Card 5 Vanguard in BRO. So that's really awesome. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad that you were able to secure a top. And honestly, like, it is Card 5 Vanguard and just card games in general. It's pretty hard to secure some stuff like this. So it must be still pretty surreal that like this happened.
Yeah, it didn't really sink in for me until I did a kind of a review of how the whole event went for myself. And even then it was weird just going through all the footage of my games and whatnot, just reviewing them. It was a good feeling though. It was very good.
Did you record your games?
Yes, I recorded all of them except for one, I believe, where I just forgot to hit record.
Yeah, I relate to that. There's plenty of times where I've done that. I'm like, or the opposite, I never stop recording.
Oh. 1 hour long like
it's 3 hours later. Oh yeah, that's a button.
Oh, yeah,
Whoopsie. Is this your first official like first place top, or have you topped 8 before or anything like that?
No, this is my very first top, just in general, for Vanguard at least. Yeah.
Dang, you just like went straight in. You're like not even a fluff to like that top 8 experience. You just straight up just took the whole event.
It's a local Andy to just champion now. It's just like, all right, cool, we're here now.
Here we are. Going in, before we like kind of dive a little bit into your top and kind of what you played, what is your history with TCGs in general?
TCGs in general. When I was younger, I'd say like age of 4, as very typical, everyone played Yu-Gi-Oh at the time. So stuck with that until around middle school, I believe. Just playing around just on the playground, no real locals because there was no locals around where I lived. And then I went to high school, kind of dropped TCGs for about 3 years. Until my final year, which I got into Vanguard, fell in love with the community, and yeah. I also picked up Shadowverse along the way. Well, not a TCG, but that followed shortly after I started playing Vanguard. So I still play those two till this day.
It's interesting in regards to Shadowverse because it is like a TC. It is kind of like a TCG, but it's more. Can you give me like a brief like rundown like what Shadowverse even is, so some people that may not know?
It's basically just a digital card game where it's not really a TCG because there's no trading involved. But it's basically a digital card game that it's often compared to Hearthstone, which is I see the comparisons.
Yep.
But it does have different mechanics and whatnot, which do make it a bit more interesting to play, I'd say.
Okay, cool. I personally have played Shadowverse myself. I think it's very pretty. I have a hard time getting into it though.
That's understandable. It's fairly daunting at times.
Yeah, it's kind of like an on and off thing. I think just reading all the information just takes a toll sometimes. There's just there's just a lot of reading.
Trust me, I know. It's rough, man.
Like you would think in real life, like you read the cards, it'd be like, the same concept. For some reason online, you just don't want to read it. You just want to smack stuff.
Yeah, there's always just that like there's some barrier with online for me because I do feel more strongly about Vanguard as opposed to Shadowverse. Because I don't know, just playing with physical cards, you just don't get that with digital games. That's obvious now that I say that out loud, but
well, I mean, some like digital too, so
yeah, it's more convenient that way, but you do miss that like person-to-person connection with physical TCGs, I'd say. Relatable. So something about
moving the cards around and stuff like that kind of gives it like that feeling that you're like doing something, and it kind of it's kind of the same way with board games. You just kind of feel like you're like actually interacting with the cards and not just like moving and clicking them around. So it makes sense.
Also, not to mention like seeing your opponent like sit across from you, like that's also a big thing for me as well.
That's valid. Sometimes you gotta stare down your opponent like, I'm going to kill you today.
I will ruin your life in this move.
You will hit 6 damage.
I will hit triple crit.
I have a random question out of in between all of this. Why is your name Megatrick?
I don't know, man. It could be anyone's guess.
What do you mean?
But no, I guess in that sense I could talk about how I got into Vanguard in the first place.
Yeah, go for it.
So, as I mentioned before, I started with Yu-Gi-Oh! And in Yu-Gi-Oh! The combos are more so like bringing out a strong monster as opposed to what you do with the monsters, for example.
Okay.
And when I saw Vanguard, I first saw decks that were multi-attacking, which I did find very interesting. In Yu-Gi-Oh, that's not really a concept that's like fully utilized, I'd say. Like, sure, you get like this one odd card that could do 2 attacks in its turn or whatever, but in Vanguard, like seeing stuff like Aqua Force or Pale Moon, like that was pretty like eye-opening to me. It's like, whoa, this is really cool. So when I got into Vanguard, I was looking at different clans and whatnot, and Pale Moon's playstyle just seemed very cool to me. So I picked up a Harri deck in G, and yeah, Megatrick just sounds like a cool name. So here we are.
I'm not gonna
It's
lie.
really
Until about it sounds so stupid, but until about 3 weeks ago. By the way, just context, I play Pale Moon too, and I actually play Pale Moon a lot. I didn't realize that there were actually like more than one unit named Megatrick until like 3 weeks ago.
And there's like 6 of them.
I know. I found out. I was reading one of the shrines. I was like, because I saw you're the champion. I was like, Megatrick, cool. And then I read one of the Pale Moon cards. I was like, oh, that has Megatrick in its name. And then I read another Pale Moon card. Oh, this one also has Megatrick.
Wait, there's more of them.
Yeah.
They're multiplying.
For some reason, I thought it was just that one stride that de-strides into the rear guard. I thought it was just her. But little did I know there's actually a lot more.
There's a lot of them.
We learn something new every day. So I'm not the best at names. I look at card and I'm like, this does something, and that's all that matters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's pretty. But usually I only remember a part of the name, and Yvette is like, something I remember. And for some reason, for the other one, the one that does go on the rear guard, I remember that was called Megatrick in it, even though that's actually not the way you normally call it. But long story short, I'm an idiot sometimes.
Don't worry, same here.
So you mentioned before about Shadowverse, and actually I have a little bit, like, I know that you're part of a Shadowverse team. What is that like?
So I'm a part of Team Starfall for Shadowverse.
Mm-hmm.
We are, well, part of being a team for Shadowverse it's a bit weird because like Shadowverse is obviously a single player game, so it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so just like a really good group of playtesting guys, I guess. But we're kind of just like under the same banner of like a name, which is Starfall, but yeah, we just kind of just bounce off each other, like give each other ideas, have a lot of like more in-depth testing and whatnot, but outside of that, we're also just friends in real life as well. Like we're all from Canada ourselves, and it's kind of cool just seeing like actual teammates that I can see physically sometimes,
It actually is really cool. It's kind of cool that you guys spend the time to like play test together, and you guys are more a team of like figuring stuff out, figuring the meta out, and just kind of like helping each other out from the sound of it, right? Because I was thinking, when I think Shadowverse team, I'm not gonna lie, I do play Shadowverse a little bit here and there, but I was kind of thinking, I was like, is there even like team-based games in Shadowverse? Because it feels like more like a single player, like a 1v1 type of thing.
Yeah, you'd be surprised because there's a lot of teams in Shadowverse, and
really.
While not like official, while they don't do official like matches against each other,
Mm-hmm.
they're more so like kind of I don't want to say underground because that just makes it sound sketchy, but it's more so that they like kind of scrim against each other in secret. Like they do 5v5s where it's like first to 5 wins, or like
Okay.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's cool for teams to compete against each other, albeit not on an official scale, but yes, small things like that do have like good interactions against other teams.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I learned something new today because I had no idea it was a thing. I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. So how is your experience now compared to with Shadowverse compared to how it was in the past when you first started? Like, how was that for you?
Originally I was playing Shadowverse very casually. Like it wasn't my like main game because I was obviously playing Vanguard at the time, but
Yep.
I'm still do play Vanguard now. But
whoa, you do?
Whoa, crazy!
Did you just win like recently?
That doesn't sound right. Before I used to play super casually until the beginning of the team, because I was there since the team was first made in university.
Mm-hmm.
Because initially my team was a university-based team, and now we've branched off from the university for various reasons, but until I actually joined the team, I was extremely casual. Like, I didn't really much care for meta, I didn't really care about improving my game all that much. It was more so just a game that I could play on my phone, wherever.
I keep forgetting it's a phone game.
Yes. Like, it's on Steam and everything, but oh hey, it's also a mobile game.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, ever since joining the team, like, seeing the meta now, learning what various decks do, and having like an endgame account allows you just pretty much have access to every deck that you can make.
Mm-hmm.
It gives me a lot of leeway with like discussing basically every deck. Because with physical TCGs, there's that barrier of like money, obviously, to like purchase new decks and whatnot.
Yep.
While here with an endgame account, you kind of just make whatever deck you want, and you can test everything freely and compete with everything freely.
It's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's those small little differences that do make up, like, I guess, the Shadowverse player that I am today.
What would you think? It's kind of not necessarily off topic, but what would you think if Vanguard had something like that? Like, not necessarily like zero, but like if it kind of steamed more towards how like Shadowverse is, with like having access to all those cards and but still be able to compete, and having like that, like you have like a fresh account, and then as time builds, you have like an actual like you have like access to the whole card pool like premium.
Sounds like a lot of fun, to be honest. Yeah, because like with Yu-Gi-Oh, it feels like that's what Master Duel was trying to be, but like now it's kind of its own separate like meta and all that. But like,
yeah, different ban lists. At least I'm pretty sure there's different ban lists. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it's a different ban list, and like they're just missing cards in general, which is interesting. But a Vanguard equivalent of that would be very cool. I think I would be very interested in it.
Same here. So I thought I'd ask to see your thoughts on it. On a similar subject to Vanguard, so similarly, how is your experience now with Vanguard versus how it was like when you first started? Like how did that road go?
With me personally, I do feel like I kind of went through like 3 different phases of Vanguard at least. Like at the very beginning, it was very much so just your casual guy that fell in love with the game, like finding a local community. I didn't really aim to like enter shop challenges or shop tournaments in general. Like I was just more so just meeting up with friends, like, oh, let's play this game after school or whatever. And then all of a sudden a pandemic hit.
Valid.
And yeah, so I started playing online, just random Discord servers and whatnot. I met a good group of friends, and ever since then I've just been improving. And I guess the third phase would just be here we are now. Like I do feel like after winning is kind of just a stepping stone where I could just, I don't know where we're going from here, but I hope it's up, right?
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, that is the goal, meta shifts and stuff like that. And, you know, after getting the taste of like winning once, you kind of want to have that taste again, probably, exactly. I would assume. So I can imagine that you'd want to just keep practicing and probably improving in the game, and maybe even in other formats as well. That's understandable. I'm actually kind of envious of you. I never knew Vanguard was a thing when I was in high school. I bumped into it very late. So it's really cool that you had the chance to actually experience Vanguard kind of in the proper setting it's supposed to be in, since it is kind of like pretty high school related, like even in the anime and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Glad you had the chance to kind of mess around with this so early.
Yeah, like just like every lunch break I would just meet up with my friends and say, yo, Vanguard right now.
It sounds so nerdy but so cool.
I said, yo, I gotta win a game before math class, dude. Like, come on.
I know we have a test in like 20 minutes, but I have to play this Royal Paladin deck like right now. Like it needs to happen.
Right now. It's like, come on.
The regionals 2019 Georgia one was happening, and there was also the same time the college semester was happening. And I was like, every single day I would come like 2 hours before class would start, and I'm just like doing this like somewhere in the corner somewhere, and people are like, what are you doing? What is she doing over there? And I'm just like figuring out, do I want Flanger with this card? Do I want Flanger with that card? Do I want Cont'd to mill out these cards or these cards? I was like really trying to find something to make Flanger the most hittable thing on the planet at the time. Dude, I mean, at the time it was unbanned, right? So like I could just be like, the bigger this gets, the more you can't guard it. So I found out that little Dragon Spirit tech, it's a card that says when it comes out of drop, it gets 8k, or it gets 4k, then it gets another 4k. So it's a 16k booster. Behind Flanger, who also gets power, kind of
looking kind of big.
Looking kind of scary. Oh, I just carved my whole hand. You can't guard. Darn.
I guess I'll die now.
Nope, exactly. Even that nostalgia just really hits. I can imagine like the school nostalgia probably hits too.
Oh yeah, like seeing the anime, like even now, like seeing Yu and everyone go through high school, I'm just feeling, god damn it. I feel the exact same way. God damn it. If you enjoy your time.
Enjoy it while you can. Wait till your adult life comes and you have work and other responsibilities.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of another topic here. So what is your mentality when it comes to like card games that you play competitively? This could also be towards Shadowverse, by the way, too.
Mentality? Like, you mean prepping for a tournament or just
just
in
like
general?
I guess kind of like, I guess the tournament would be a good way to put it. Like, kind of like how you set your mind when you enter a tournament or when you're starting to test. Like, kind of, the positivities and negativities. Because I'm sure all that's kind of sinks in through. Like, sometimes you don't feel like you're good enough, or you don't feel like you've play tested enough. Like, how do you deal with that? And like, how do you like just manage that, like between tournaments and testing and entering events like BRO and so on?
With me personally, I rarely enter like small events myself. I just don't find time for it personally. I'd just rather test for the larger events where it's kind of just like a major thing, right?
Yep, of course.
But with me personally, I tend to just, if I know what I'm playing like early on, I would just literally only play that one deck. So if you were to ask someone like Charlie, for example, because he was like the guy I was testing out a lot against, I would do nothing but bash it with Nightmare Dolls for like several weeks. Even before the ban list hit, I just kept bashing it with Nightmare Dolls. But like in general, yeah, I typically stick with one deck if I know I'm playing with it. But if that's not working out, I typically just, at that point, when I don't know what I'm gonna play, I literally just play everything. Like, it's a good example in Shadowverse because once again, you have access to everything.
Yep.
But I would literally just rotate through like all the decks that I can play and see like what actually sticks with me.
Wow.
Whether it be like a comfort pick or whether it be like it actually wins a lot more. It's one or the other that sticks with me the most.
Do you ever, as you test a deck, do you compare it to like meta and think like, is this deck enough to actually win with?
In Vanguard, I think that a lot, but in Shadowverse, you typically just stick with the established meta as is because it's very. I feel like the meta in Shadowverse is very set in stone. Like it doesn't change that often, and it usually changes. Not during an event, but like over time in ladder, which people can compile results and whatnot to show like what wins the most on ladder. With Vanguard, I feel like the meta is a little bit more fluid. While it doesn't change as drastically, I do feel as though there are still decks that could top like most known meta decks, right? Like, for example, like I still don't think Nightmare Dolls is the best deck in the format, but I still was able to win with it. Not popular, it's not as popular anymore, but it's still able to provide results.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, part of that is, with Bugs being in the meta or in and out of the meta. I think Bugs is a pretty tough matchup for dolls in general, so it makes sense. Makes sense. Also, personally, even with the ban, 2 Bugs, like the small like touch, I still think Bugs is actually really good, and the results definitely showed. It's still different decks, and they were still showing top 8 results. How long have you been playing Pale Moon and dolls?
So I've been playing Pale Moon about a month after I started because Harri at the time was a bit out of my budget, so I was saving up for that.
Was it expensive?
It wasn't very expensive, but I was a high schooler, right? So like most things were just expensive in general.
Dang, I'm privileged.
Yeah, I'm young. I'm sorry. But yeah, like Harri was a bit expensive at the time, but I did end up picking it up. I ended up picking it up over a month, let's say. I've been playing it since then. In the V series, I was pretty sad because everything was more early game focused, so my strides didn't do as much if I even got to that point. But yeah, with dolls specifically, I've been playing them since I want to say a little bit before Chelsea came out in that like clan selection or whatever.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's been about a year. No, has it been a year?
I think it's been 2. I want to say
it hasn't been 2 years. I know for sure. If we're talking about Chelsea specifically, which is the newer stuff, I believe Chelsea came out. So Chelsea came out after Vert came out, because that was pretty much because Chelsea's the after Overdress rebooted. Right. Vert came out in 2021. So I think in 2021 is actually when Chelsea. Has that been 2 years?
It might be 1.5.
Oh my gosh, it's been that long. Sorry, like process was like, it can't have been a year, right?
Where's the time gone?
So you've been playing for a little over a year, pretty much, at least with that in mind.
Yeah, because Dolls is very, even before Chelsea, it was a very good deck, I feel, playing just good stuff Pale Moon, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have access to Abigail or Marissa at the time, but playing Carol as your main ride is very good because checking top 5 to get anything you want into Soul is pretty solid.
Actually, I'm with you. I was also playing dolls, but I was playing V because I didn't know premium too well. So I was actually playing dolls when Lukier dropped, because Lukier revealed the Carol set. Like Carol and Lukier dropped in the same set. And that's when I started playing dolls. And I was like, why is no one playing this? I also played the Armorith, the Beast Tamer that you play in your deck now, for the same reasons. Because at the time we didn't have a countercharger and a lot of people ran Chimera. And I was like, you know what if instead of Chimera, I run Chimera and I run this card that literally just refunds a counterblast cost for free. I just shove Alice into Soul, or I shove Chimera into Soul. Boom. Carol restands, and people never expected, because they would like purposely keep me at like one counterblast, and then I would ride Carol with my one counterblast and be like, cool, swing, armor skill into Soul, I restand, and then they're like, no, you did not just do that with one counterblast. I'm like, yes, I did. Here I come.
Love to see it.
Yeah, and the loop is so awesome. For those of you guys that don't know, Carol can loop herself. So once you have a Carol in Soul, you can keep looping the same card over and over again, as long as you have the counterblast and the grade 3s to keep putting into Soul to do it. I think I started a little bit before you, but you definitely have way more knowledge because you play the premium side of things, and I had the deck in premium and I was just too scared to actually play it because I was like, this is scary.
That's fair. Like premium itself is scary, but premium Pale Moon is a whole different beast if you're like, you don't know too much about like interactions and whatnot.
Yep. I saw Magia and I was like,
how is this?
What do you mean keyword? I'm serious. I was like, what is that? Oh, I can't play this in my dolls deck? I don't care about it then. Cool. And then I just went back to Grand Blue.
Fair enough.
I was like, Hollow makes more sense. It means it retires at the end of turn. Got it.
I really enjoy playing Harri. It's probably one of my favorite decks for like V-Series Harri was a lot of fun. It like especially his implementation. That's not a word. That's not a word. I really enjoy playing the V-Series Harri stuff in premium. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's strong. It's strong. It was a new mechanic. Like no other deck had an access to marker manipulation like this. Like we had some weird stuff here and there, but there was no other deck that says, hey, this turns into something different. Like it just becomes its own marker. So you wouldn't even call it like an Excel marker because it's a stage.
Get a force marker?
Yeah, exactly. It just builds. It builds and it's force with a +1, and then it just pluses even more as you keep going.
Want me to do it again? I think the most amount of Excels I've ever made in one game was, I'm scared. 10. Because you could just keep looping Dragon with Trapeze instead. It's just like, all right, cool, more Excel.
Yeah, you're when you have more Excel markers than you have deck. That's when you know it's real.
It's some real stuff.
So we got the kind of understanding of your experience with dolls and Pale Moon. I would say that's pretty good experience because I honestly would consider Pale Moon and dolls a pretty hard deck to learn from start. So like it kind of gets easier the more. I would say dolls is easier on the spectrum of learning Pale Moon. However, even just picking up that, like that alone is already, especially syncing it into premium. Like in V, it's already kind of like has like a couple like little movement here, but in premium, it's like a whole. You know, you have the G zone on top of that. You have like all this extra stuff to work with. So I would say that's solid that you were able to master and like do well with the deck, especially with, in my personal opinion, it being one of the harder on the learning scale of being one of the harder ones.
Yeah, it's definitely a very daunting task to like try to learn Pale Moon. Although I was considering writing a guide similar to what Charlie did with Tachikaze.
Really?
Where I could kind of introduce players to Pale Moon and their different archetypes, because I do feel like there's kind of a difficulty curve where with like different archetypes there's like Silverthorn, Dolls, and Harri. But like I do feel like it's a good discussion point for just getting new players into the game in general, because Pale Moon, in my opinion, is probably the most fun I've had playing Vanguard in general. Like it's a very rewarding clan to play once you like know how to pilot it properly and whatnot.
And it's so rewarding when you see that. I'm not gonna lie, when you see your opponent hit that 6 damage after you do all these crazy combos, you're just like, you're like, the adrenaline hits. You're like, oh, 12 combo, and we won. I got my Excel markers. Mwah, bon appetit.
Chef's kiss.
Big chef's kiss. So I can definitely see that being like a good way to introduce people, though I do think Pale Moon is like a heavier clan to introduce people to. But overall, if they're cool, if you just go like, hey, this challenge, you ready for it? And they're like, yes, you're like, that's right, we got a good one. We got a good one today.
All right, lesson 1.
Lesson 1. Everything is a resource. Good luck.
Best of luck, don't die. Is
Pale Moon your comfort pick?
Absolutely. I love this clan. It is. I would choose this deck over any other deck in terms of comfort, like any day of the week.
Okay.
I could sleep playing this deck, honestly.
Oh my
I
god.
could play this deck in my sleep.
Guys,
like,
the cranium is massive. The cranium is actually ginormous. I built my deck around...
A new challenger has appeared.
It's my cat. Hello, Crystal. Welcome to the show.
Welcome aboard. Hello.
The door just like opens. I was like,
New challenger approaches.
You want to play Great Nature Cat? So, sorry. This has been a very interesting interview, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
What are some carpool or like dolls techs that you've thought of or maybe currently using or anything like that that you'd like to share?
So the two that immediately come to mind is, as you mentioned before, the Chimera, for the grade 3 Chimera that moves a rearguard to soul, countercharges, and gets power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that card is honestly really good. However, I just couldn't find the space in it in my current build. Like, don't get me wrong, it's very splashable. However, it's not a workhorse that we can search off Marissa.
Yep.
And in this meta, I really wanted to emphasize on consistency above all else.
Makes sense.
So just like seeing all of my pieces that I could actually search, instead of like a really good one of, I just preferred the consistency instead.
Mm-hmm.
However, Chimera is a very solid card, especially on your kill turns to refund that counterblast that you could Alice loop with Leslie again. Another card is a little bit more unknown, I'd say. It's called Cat Knight in High Boots. It's a grade 0.
That. Yeah. That's a
Like,
funny
that
card.
I love that card.
It's so
much.
funny. I read it and I was like, what is this?
Because the whole thought process is that you gotta just build a board for playing the game. Like, you literally could just ride your Vanguard. If you're already GB, you call it out and call something else out. Not to mention, it also combos with Dark Lord Princess, the stride that just combos off, switches into another stride.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cat Knight calls itself out whenever a card is placed on Vanguard Circle. So you could just mid-call something in battle, whether it be like a Leslie or an Alice, or just like maybe the crit that goes to Soul to give you more power. Like,
That's kind
Cat
of
Knight
cool.
is literally free as well, so that's why I really wanted to include it. But once again, I value consistency over a really good one of.
It is a 0, and sometimes it's hard to put zeros in like that, especially if it'll mess up your ratios for like
Exactly,
1s, 2s,
yeah.
and 3s. So that makes sense.
Because the thing is, I would have probably cut a Rollock to play it, but like Rollock is just so good in this format, I feel. Especially in Dolls of all things. So I really wanted to play 4 Rollock instead.
Yeah, and partially since Dolls is known for, riding up and then riding back down so then you can Rollock. So of course, like, Rollock is kind of just more useful overall.
We are the grade 2 game. Like, it's
It's good. It's good. You can't heal guard, but hey, you got Rollocks.
It's true. But yeah, Rollock, I just valued Rollock above like these other 2 options here. But outside of that, probably run 4 of for the Go to Soul crit.
Mm-hmm.
I do feel like that extra power really does come up, even in the early game when you're like not even riding up to grade 3 yet. I do feel like that extra 2k does matter with hitting magic numbers or even force numbers in general.
That's right. So you're talking about the overdress one, because there's 2 different ones. So there's the GB one, the one that has the premium
Plus
one.
10 and draw, yeah.
Yeah, plus 10 and draw card, and then there's the overdress one that you after it boosted, you essentially put it to soul and give something 2k.
Yes. I would rather play 4 of those because just that extra power really does come up a lot more often than I would think.
I talked about this on the interview with you on BRO. I'm still surprised at how useful that card is, because I am like, in premium I can definitely see, I'm like the king, the queen of hating those crits. I just want it to be 1 more extra power. I don't even care if it becomes a 3k. I just really wish it had to give 3k power over 2k.
Oh god, that'd be so good.
Exactly.
I would love that.
Exactly, because you're dropping 15k shield for this. You know what I mean? Like that's
a hefty cost.
Exactly.
Like,
They mentioned it in the BRO interview video, but he talked about how like essentially that 2k can make it so you hit over force, just barely, but you're already hitting over force. So
the only scenario where I would actually run that crit instead is if I was actually playing Cat Knight in High Boots. Simply
That makes
because
sense.
Cat Knight turns that card into Pot of Greed effectively. You just draw 2 off of it. Like on Dark Lord Princess, that is, because you would call down the crit, go to soul, draw 1, and then Cat Knight to call it back out once you stride again to draw another one.
Yeah, that
But, like,
card sounds so solid. I literally own it,
so free.
and I've been wanting to like. I've been trying to figure out a way to put it into decks. I've never really. I'm just not like a Pale Moon Cranium genius by any means. So like to me, I'm like, this card is cool. I have no idea what to do with it, but it does cool stuff.
That is one cool cat. Like that's all I can say.
It is a cool
cat.
cat.
Is cool as hell.
Cats are cool, so if it's on a card, you gotta respect it.
It's very free, but yeah, like even if I wasn't playing that crit, cat would still be very useful because the Alice Luzzy column after you call Jenny is 24. If you boost it with one crit, it becomes 26. But if you boost it with two crits, it becomes 28, which would still hit force numbers.
Interesting, and defenses are a thing too.
Yeah, exactly. Like that cat does so much work with like either or of the crits. Like I do really want to include it in a future.
Just drop Armor at the Beast Steamer. I mean, honestly, that's probably the one thing to move. If you were to move something, that would be the easiest thing to kind of move around compared to everything else, because it's not a workaroid. Like you always kind of want to start with non-workaroid stuff before you start touching the workaroid stuff mainly. Yeah. So if you want to keep the consistency line of play going anyway, because I always kind of wondered, because I'm not an expert personally, and I'm sure other people aren't either. It would be interesting to see like what happens when things go wrong. Like what do you do?
We cry about it. First and foremost, we cry about it. Second of all,
no.
we cry about not having Harri anymore.
Oh, you know, you're not wrong.
Harri was honestly our plan B.
Yeah, you're talking about the Harri that just got banned, right?
Yeah.
Was it that painful losing it, or like
yeah, believe it or not, it's actually pretty painful.
Really?
Especially in the Dimension Police matchup, like calling out a grade 3 with Magia, so that way you could re-ride into a grade 2 at the end of your turn after striding.
Oh.
Like the use of Rolocks in the Dimension Police matchup especially is very huge.
Well, of course, because they could get like tons of crits. That makes sense.
And they also can't link it either because Rollock is not a Sentinel. So yeah, like that's a huge reason why.
Wow.
I don't want to call a grade 3 off Yvette. Like it just doesn't feel good. I'd rather call Leslie, right?
Yeah, exactly. I've actually never thought about that. I didn't think about the DP matchup, but I could actually, yeah, because most people when they bring this up, they think about Link Joker.
I mean, that's also a big issue as well. But Link Joker where?
Link Joker, huh?
What's that?
That's a clan? No, I'm just kidding. It's kind of a clan. I think it's slowly actually starting to come back. Some people will be like, no, it's not a clan. Doesn't exist. But I actually think slowly, but as more stuff keeps coming out, I think the Link Joker players are starting to find kind of like an actual deck. Like, and that's not perfect. Exactly.
That new strike is a good step in like
the right direction.
In regards to a plan B, it's just strike Dark Lord Princess. that's all it is.
Do you ever Beatrix? I think her name is. I think her name is Beatrix. You ever stride into Beatrix? Because she's kind of free, right? No counterblast or anything on her.
She's free, but you have to commit at least 3 workaroids, which can be weird because I only really stride into her when I check over trigger offensively, because that quite literally just turns our deck into Overlord. Like.
Oh, I see what you mean now. That's interesting. Yeah, if you hit it early enough.
Yeah, because instead of going for Alice Leslie, you just pivot into just restanding, or not restand, but multiple Vanguard swings. And Beatrix is a good way to facilitate that.
Does Beatrix restand?
No, she moves 3 workroids to Soul, moves herself to G-Zone, and then calls 2 workroids from Soul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you don't restand your Vanguard yet. You have to use Alice Chelsea.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you do her skill, and then you use Carol's skill to restand Carol.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, it processed. I didn't realize that she literally leaves the G zone like mid-battle. I thought it kind of happened like towards the end, but that makes sense.
She's literally just like a job you just done.
Wow, that's actually very interesting. That would make a lot more sense because yeah, at that point it makes Carol. Oh my gosh, it actually makes Carol like really good because Carol has a 12k base is a yikes, but Carol has a 22k base with a crit is definitely not a yikes anymore.
It's literally just Overlord.
Yeah, that's actually nuts because for those people that don't know, when you re-ride with Carol, you ride into a new unit, so you lose any effects that you put on Vanguard. But in this situation, because of the over OT, it stays. So you constantly have a 22k with the crit attacking. That's actually really, I actually never thought about that. That's actually pretty nutty.
But that's like the only time I ever stride Beatrix. Like, she's not a very good stride otherwise, to be honest.
That makes sense. That's still insanely smart.
It's a very fringe scenario because I always groan when I see Pale Moon G zones that just literally slap multiple Yvettes, multiple Dark Lord Princesses, and I'm just here like, come on, man, you have other strides to go into.
Yeah, I feel like
So many options.
yeah, no, I'm with you. I think people forget that, like in premium especially, your G zone is your toolbox. Like even though it's your stride zone, it is also your toolbox. And toolboxing against matchups, the best way to do it is just to start with your G zone in some situations.
Clans have better options than others, but like the option is still there, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And even if like you honestly don't need like 4 Dark Lord princesses, if I'm gonna be real, you really don't. I think like 2 is like fine.
Right?
Yeah,
2 is fine.
there's that guy with the really cool gold border. He says pretty much he takes something out from Soul, it gets like 15k and a crit, and I think has resist on it too. What is your take on that card?
I love that card. I think, genuinely speaking, that might be one of my favorite cards of all time.
So what are some situations where you would want to go into that card?
Honestly, when you're very close to decking out, because every those Counterblast 2, you move a card from Soul and drop zone back to the deck, and you call something from Soul, give it 10k and a crit, and then give it the red tech skill, Soul Blast 2, plus give it +5, and then it cannot be chosen by card effects.
Dang, I can't retire if I kind of near.
Oh man, I can just get to like Soul Blast everything and just pump it by a lot.
Huh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I've always kind of wondered.
It's an alternative finisher to Dust, let's say, because it's the same cost, but you also do get you kind of get some sort of like peace of mind with shuffling triggers back to your deck. Even the over trigger if you are that close to decking out. So if you really want to tunnel vision into it, you would just G-guard a lot just to thin your deck as much as possible.
Interesting. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I kind of always wondered what because I kind of understood the interaction. I was like, oh, I could put this on Leslie. Leslie just keeps restanding. You can't target it, you know. But I never really thought like what more context that could be coming out of that card. So that was really cool, insightful stuff. You mentioned earlier that you don't think Dolls is like that crazy of a deck as maybe some other people think it is. Where do you think Dolls stands right now in the premium meta?
I feel like if we're going by the standard like tier list, let's say, I feel like it's definitely. I feel like it's low tier 1. Like it's still a very solid deck. However, I do feel like this format, especially, it does have a couple like rough matchups. Namely, like Narukami, DP, Bermuda. I still feel is difficult. However, you can just grade 2 game them because they do need a lot of the strides to pop off. I feel.
Yeah.
But like really difficult in my opinion. So I do feel like Pale Moon is definitely low tier 1, maybe like high tier 2. Just purely because of like the other decks in the format just being really hard to play against.
I'm kind of with you though. I think it's kind of high tier 2, low tier 1 as well. I just feel like other decks are slowly catching up to what Dolls can essentially do. Especially now with the strides coming out and everything, I think that Dolls isn't like the Dolls finisher isn't as scary now as other finishers are, or what other decks are doing as well. It's still scary, obviously.
Yeah,
like
it can
no
still
one
steal games,
exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you get dusted and you don't hit defenses and you just kind of cry a little bit, so, and there's not much you can do in those situations but I do agree that I think other clans are starting to kind of catch up as well, and they're doing either similar things or doing as aggressive things or kind of forcing more hand or more, we're putting you in worse situations to where it makes it kind of like not as like the main deck to go with as like it used to be.
I don't think I strode Dust a single time in BRO.
Wow, really?
It was just Dark Lord Princess and just, that was it.
I just ended it there. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Opponent didn't hit defensives. I guess I'll just win now. Just that easy, I guess. Like, I don't know.
You mentioned that you want to experiment a bit more with the deck. Is that like is that something that you would want to keep doing? Just keep experimenting, maybe perfecting it more as the meta shifts?
Yeah, because especially with this upcoming one, like, Ripples scare me, dude. Like, Ripples are scary. So I do want to kind of experiment a little bit more. I don't know how much more is the thing. Because I do feel like going to that meta, I don't feel like Dolls will be too playable. But
what about the new stride?
For Dolls or for Pale Moon?
Yeah, does that do anything? Because it does have like a garter shoe stuff like that. Is it even worth trying out?
It really depends, because yes, it has a garter strict, but the thing is there's like no power gain on it, so it feels really bad when your opponent hits 1 defensive. Feels
like golds.
I mean, yes. Like, oh, cool, I get a call 12 from Soul. Oh, wait, my opponent hit defensive.
I do nothing.
Last turn, I guess.
Go ahead.
Continue on.
Yep.
Like, yeah, like that new stride's cool and all, but like, I feel like it just doesn't do enough.
Makes sense. And I'm assuming that there's, because there's no decks really in Pale Moon that have a way to gain power for the rear guards or anything. Like, there might be archetype specific, but I assume there isn't too much.
It's literally just Silverthorns that can really use that stride to its full potential. Because they have a lot of +10 for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lukia, Rising Dragon, and Lillian, like they all get 10, so they can actually use that like the guard trick pretty well.
Makes sense.
It's Silverthorn, so it's a little bit slow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a little trade-off there. Yes.
Okay. What other clans do you like dabble with or like play around with outside of just Pale Moon?
Well, Pale Moon is like my child basically. I have been trying out Murakumo quite a bit because Shiryuki does seem like a very solid deck. I've been trying it out a lot, but I am very far from where I want to be with the deck at the moment. Like I have to like flip my mentality while playing it because I'm so used to things wanting to hit, but now I have to think, wait, I don't want things to hit now, so it feels a bit backwards to me still. So I'm still trying to overcome that first hurdle with piloting the deck still. But other than that, I do play Genesis and Bermuda pretty casually. Like, obviously just more fun decks than anything. Like Bermuda, I quite literally just play Frederica Highlander. It's just fun to me.
Best deck.
And with Genesis, I just play Melissa Mill because that's just funny to me as well.
That's actually pretty funny too.
But yeah, other than that, it's primarily in terms of like things that I would actually bring to tournaments and whatnot, just Murakumo and. What
does the future meta look like for you in terms of like? Do you think dolls? You had brought it up earlier, but just to reiterate, what do you think the future meta is going to be like, and where do you think dolls will stand with what's upcoming with the V-Clay collection dropping soon?
I really do think dolls are probably going to be phased out. Like, as much as it hurts to say, I don't think Pale Moon will be that viable next season. I hope this is a poorly aged things, but that clan collection doesn't really give us much, if anything at all.
Have frankly, Bastion.
Like, wow, ooh, anyways. But yeah, I feel like the past couple of clan collections for Pale Moon specifically, they haven't really done much, if anything at all, for premium at least.
Yeah, Beast Tamer, and then now we're getting this. I would honestly, I'm gonna be real with you. I wish we just got a bunch of end of stage support. That's all. That would be like actual nuts. Like I'm waiting for Dark States to print out something that will make end of stage better. I'm just waiting. Like there's been some minor stuff here and there, but I want like straight up like this will help end of stage specifically.
Give us a second end of stage Bushiroad, you cowards.
Reverse end of stage when?
Yo, that'd be sick.
It would be so cool.
Yo.
Like seriously though, it's like my favorite Pale Moon deck. No joke.
I would be so hyped for that.
It would be really sick. So
but yeah, it's like Pale Moon in general. I don't think is going to be doing too much, if anything, next season, or like next set rather. But
it really is next season. BCS between now and BCS, that I don't think much will change in terms of V and premium meta. Like there won't be anything coming out. So honestly, whatever the meta that settles when V-Clan collection drops will probably be that meta till pretty much the end of December, unless there's some like random set that drops between now and then.
Because like the thing is, Ripples just seems very good early on. Like Pale Moon in general just doesn't fare too well against early aggro like that.
Agreed.
And the fact that Narukami is actually popping up even more now after Clan Collection, like it'll be even scarier because that matchup is still pretty difficult for me, or for Pale Moon as a whole rather. But yeah, unfortunately, I think I might have to drop the clan for next season. As much as it hurts to say.
Start playing DP. You got this.
Well, we'll look for a new DP deck. Let's go.
Instead of them being your nightmares, you can make them your dreams, like happy dreams.
Oh, crazy! What a twist!
Just turn it around. You're gonna start having dreams like with your like tops with DP, and you're like, yes, this is all I've waited for.
The Gundam was the friendships we made along the way.
What events are you looking to compete in the future? What's on your horizon as far as competition?
Definitely BCS. Like obviously BCS is huge. Granted, I will still be at university and all that, but like I do want to put a lot of focus on BCS this time around. Especially if, like, let's say I do figure out something that I do want to play at that time. Plus, I haven't been to an in-person event since, like, before the pandemic, in all honesty.
You gonna go to Springfest?
No, because I'm from Canada personally, and there just wasn't a Springfest in Canada.
Y'all didn't have one. That's so unfortunate.
I think the reason was because, like, just the mask mandates and everything was still in place at the time, like, dates were rolling out, so we probably just missed it by a couple months or so, which is, I mean, it's fine. But yeah, that just brings me more excitement to go to in-person events again, and I'm I just can't wait to see my homies again. It's been a
Yeah,
while.
so this is gonna be really exciting. Are you gonna go to more than one, or are you gonna stick to like maybe one this time?
We'll see. Because I do well, for BCS specifically, I'll probably just stick to one. But
Mhm.
Springfest next year, I do have a couple plans to travel out to meet up with some friends and participate in those ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, well, I wish you luck with that, and kind of just going on just a couple stuff because I didn't get a chance to bring up BRO. Did you have a good time at BRO? Like for the online experience, how did it go for you?
It was fun, but it was a very long experience. Like, in rounds was I was so tired by the end of the day.
Yeah, I can't say I don't agree with you. I was commenting the entire time.
I mean, shout out to the judges as well. Like those guys,
Yeah.
those are the real MVPs. Like I don't know how they did it.
Honestly, I can't agree with you more because there's so much disputes and stuff that happens that they have to keep constantly fixing or dealing with. It is very daunting.
The real heroes of the event.
Yeah,
Right.
honestly, everyone put a lot of work. Considering the event is free, I would say the amount of effort that's put behind it is like immaculate.
Yeah, but yeah, the event was really fun. I really enjoyed my time. I did run into like a lot of weird decks I just wasn't expecting at all, so that was very interesting as well.
What kind of decks?
Like MLB, for example, I was not expecting to see.
MLB?
No.
Like not Jewel Knights. MLB.
No, like 18k base guy. Like,
I'm just making sure like I think about the right deck here because some people mix and match both decks actually. I don't know about premium, but it's just pure. Damn, that low key. I've been seeing more and more people try to make that deck work both in premium and V, and I'm just like, it's been like 2 years, guys.
I just don't like it because it's 18k base, man. It makes my work so much harder.
Yeah, I think it's a hilarious deck. That force marker generation is insane.
I was like, wait a second, you just made 3 of them out of nowhere. What's going on?
It's a rearguard sucking thing, and you do have to rip 2 cards out of your hand every single time for it. But it is still like you still sit out of a nice triple drive 18k base.
A random burst of power like that. Just like, what the hell?
Exactly, and I guess as an Excel deck, I can only imagine that's tough. I didn't get a chance to ask you this, but what was your Swiss round record?
Oh, I went X1 overall. My only loss being to Flagbird Colony.
That makes sense. That stuff is spicy. How was that matchup?
It made sense. However, the way I lost didn't make any sense.
What happened?
So my opponent won the dice roll first off, so they got to grade 3 first.
Mhm.
When they went up to grade 3, my hand was 2 Carol, 2 Chelsea, 2 Alice, a Jenny, and a Rollock. And I'm just here like, I can't do anything.
Oh my god, that's 6 grade 3s. Oh god, that's disgusting.
Maybe I am a Dimension Police player.
Low key, I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, the gods are talking to you. There's a reason I picked up the deck. I'm telling you, man. It could be your next deck.
Looking for a new deck. I don't know, man. That'd be all the signs. But yeah, that matchup, I don't think I would have won, even if that wasn't the case, because typically the game plan is just to ride up to Carol, do the thing, ride back down, just to put on pressure while denying the first drive, because Bridora is no fun.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah, that Meg Colony is just a hard matchup in general, just as a whole.
Makes sense. It makes sense. But aside from that, and your weird MLB stuff, did you see anything else that was weird or unusual in your run in Swiss? Like any other cool decks out there?
Cool decks. Just take a quick peek at my notes again because
go for it.
Like down the game.
Whoa,
crazy.
Oh my gosh,
Keeping track
taking
of what I
notes,
did.
keeping track.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, no wonder he plays Pale Moon.
Oh damn. I ran into a Dungry, which was interesting.
Another 17k base. That's so funny.
I already struggle with 13k base.
That's so funny.
So yeah, because one, it's Narukami, which I already think is a hard matchup, but
Yep.
the fact that it's Dungry as well, 17k base.
Do you think that deck's like any viability behind the deck? Because I'm pretty sure there was actually a Duggery player that won. It's actually someone within my Discord. I don't remember what region they won in, but I do remember there being a Dungaree winner. No, I don't think they took first place, but I think they took either third or fourth.
It has a very surprising amount of aggression behind it. Because I do feel like Dungry could make better use of Stunverse as a whole, as opposed to other builds, from what I've seen, because they do force you to bind stuff from your hand specifically, so you can't really play around that.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel as though that Dungry is weird. I do feel with the correct amount of support, it might be a bit more viable.
Interesting.
But it is a very weird deck to play against. Like if you don't know anything like how I did, because it's Dunkery, right? Like it's not what you would expect as Eradicator or Vanquisher.
That is true. It's just kind of like its own thing. Yeah. I always thought Loki. Ever since I've seen that card revealed, I've been waiting for the moment, because if you want to get me into Narukami, that's how you do it. It's Dunkery. Nothing else. I don't care about the other stuff. But I actually really like Dunkery.
Yeah, it's very spooky if you just see it without context.
Yeah, exactly. I want to thank you for spending the time with me today. First off, to just really appreciate you being here. Before we officially kind of start closing it out, any shout outs you want to just, to anyone that helped you through your Vanguard journey, Shadowverse journey, whatever. This is your time.
I guess with Shadowverse specifically, shout out to my Team Starfall. Follow us on Twitter, I guess. Like, those guys, honestly, I wouldn't be competing in Shadowverse if it wasn't for them. Like, having those guys to kind of support me from like behind while I do my games, like it's great. Those guys are the boys. Like, they already know. I don't need to shout them out. They already know. And I guess I already did my shoutouts for Vanguard already, just as a whole. So I guess I will shout out other people that I haven't shouted out before. Shout out to Chris specifically from my locals. He actually supplied me with Rolocks like a week before the event.
Oh, that's nice of him.
Yeah, so like without him, I quite literally would not have Rolocks to play in the events.
Okay.
And my deck would be significantly weaker. So shout out to you, my guy.
Aw.
And I guess he's the only really person I really spoke to since the pandemic.
Shout out to your premium team that you've been testing with too.
I mean, they already know that they're boys. Come on now. I was in a call with like a couple of them while I was typing that up, and I'm just because I was muted at the time because like people were sleeping in the household, right? And I was just crying there. I'm just like, God damn it.
Aw, that's so cute.
They're just laughing at other stuff while I'm just out here crying.
They're like hee hee ha ha. You're like they're my closest friends. I love these guys.
I hate these guys, but god damn it, are they amazing.
Social medias, you have like 15 seconds. Any social medias that you use, go.
Just follow me on Twitter, I guess, at Megatrick4. If you wonder why 4, it's because the other numbers were taken, so... There are 3 other Megatricks out there, apparently? I don't know.
In the world.
Yeah, I guess just follow me on Twitter. That's about it.
Alright, well, thank you so much. Again, thank you for being here, and you guys at home, all you wonderful people, hope you guys enjoyed this wonderful little interview that we had today with Megatrick. But we're gonna go ahead off, so peace out, guys. Das vidania. See you guys in a future video, whatever it is I'm doing, and catch Megatrick on the social medias that he mentioned. Don't forget to give him a follow. He's a homie. He knows his premium stuff. But other than that, guys, bye!
Take care.